Right. Speaking of the climate and the president's attack, here's his latest broadside against you and your magazine and the majority owner, Lorraine Powell Jobs. He writes, Steve Jobs would not be happy that his wife is wasting money he left her on a failing radical left magazine. Again, the magazine is not failing. Run by a con man. That's you, apparently. That spews fake news and hate. Let her know how you feel. 4 exclamation points. That seems ominous to me. Do you interpret that as a threat?
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. We're back today again to talk about Little Tater Stelter, the DNC operative and leftist propagandist from CNN. A man who makes his living bashing on his ideological and business competition in the media, but then gaslights the country every day with this idea, this warped idea that criticizing the media, or in this case, writing a letter to the editor, is some sort of threatening, ominous prospect. No, you did not misunderstand what I just said. He and his little left-wing propagandist butt buddy think that the time-honored American tradition of writing letters to the editor is threatening. We're going to get right into Brian Stelter and his little meltdown with The Atlantic, but first take a quick moment to hear about this special offer for my subscribers from My Patriot Supply. When you see what's going on in our country right now, there's plenty to be concerned about. Social unrest is making life very uncomfortable, and it could quickly get worse. These are realistic dangers, so don't let yourself be caught unprepared. Here's what to do right now. Go to www.preparewithdronetek.com and start building your emergency food supply today. The experts at My Patriot Supply are the only people I trust and use. And right now, you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious meals the whole family will love. My Patriot Supply makes it easy to be prepared at all times. And saving $100 off a life-saving 4-week supply of food is too good to pass up. The second half of 2020 is gonna be wild. So go to preparewithdronetek.com and get ready right now. That's preparewithdronetek.com. Do it now. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because over the years, I've warned people that the media's goal and the goal of the left in general and the Democrats is to end all dissent and criticism against them. And of course, criticism against their propagandists in the media. They're doing that in a number of ways, whether it be through the education system or the tech giants and social media or the news media itself being corrupted and in the tank for one of the political parties. But along with that, they're also demonizing anybody who criticizes what they're doing. And you also see this when it comes to what stories they'll report. They won't report on any of the violence that we're seeing from BLM or Antifa every day across this country, but you might see those videos, you might see reporting about that on Fox News or the internet. So what do? They go out on the air and they say that anybody who's reporting this stuff is a far-right extremist. So that if you do see it, if you do happen to see that news, you'll just instantly dismiss it because CNN and the other networks told you that the people reporting that news are really bad. This is exactly what they're doing with criticism against them. They're painting anybody who delivers that criticism as somehow on the far-right fringes, somebody to be ignored and skeptical of. But never them. Never be skeptical of CNN or Brian Stelter.
Right. Speaking of the climate and the president's attacks, here is his latest broadside against you and your magazine and majority owner Lorraine Powell Jobs. He writes, Steve Jobs would not be happy that his wife is wasting money he left her on a failing radical left magazine, again the magazine's not failing, run by a con man, that's you apparently, that spews fake news and hate. Call her, write her, let her know how you feel, 4 exclamation points. That seems ominous to me. Do you interpret that as a threat?
You know, I spent a lot of my career covering dictatorships in the Middle East, and so I'm familiar with this kind of discourse. It is a threat. It is meant to intimidate.
Oh boy, just look at this stoic, hard-hitting journalist at work. The way he just lobs that softball for this liar to then deflect any criticism aimed at him or the Atlantic owners. Because that's the job of the free press, right? To run cover and subterfuge for political hit jobs with no evidence to back them up. I mean, based on this response alone, you know this guy is a deceitful hack that is not worthy of your trust. What did he say? He said, quote, "I spent a lot of my career covering dictatorships in the Middle East, and so I'm familiar with this kind of discourse." Oh, really? Because dictatorships are known for their letters to the editor. Peaceful, constructive discourse is obviously the hallmark of all dictatorships. What about anything that he says right here makes any sense at all? For one, dictatorships don't have a press. They have lapdog mouthpieces who gaslight their countries to retain or gain power. That sounds exactly like what our media does for the Democrat Party and what they will do for Biden if he manages to win this election. Trump told people to write a letter to the editor. This is something Americans have done since the first newspaper was printed. How in the world could something as productive as writing a letter to the editor be construed as a threat? The only way it could possibly be construed as a threat is if you're the bad guy and you're worried that you've been exposed. These are the very same people that call violent riots across this country for months on end mostly peaceful, in order to deflect any criticism of their foot soldiers. People in the media are not infallible or above criticism, especially when they're plainly and clearly partisan mouthpieces. They deserve all the criticism they're going to get because clearly their agenda is to deceive people, just like they're deceiving you about their partisanship.
I would only say that we are neither failing nor a radical left. And I would also say, and I'm not speaking for the ownership or the management of the company, I would say that we have excellent owners who value editorial independence and integrity.
Did he just say that they have owners that value independence? Come on now. Your owners have donated billions to the Democrat Party and Hillary Clinton in particular. It's an outlet that endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016 and then became part of the resistance when she lost.
I would just say that we are not going to be intimidated by the President of the United States. We're going to do our jobs, and I think that is true for a large number of outlets. His intense frustration, which comes out in these outbursts, comes from the fact that unlike dictators in other countries, he cannot simply shut down media outlets that he doesn't like.
Right! That's because he's not a dictator. I mean, my God, he just basically said that Trump would be a dictator if he could be a dictator, which is just a deceitful way of saying Trump isn't a dictator. Look, it's clear to see The Atlantic published this fact-free story specifically to influence the election against Trump. And we've seen these tactics before. Dan Rather, formerly of CBS News, did the same thing. Just a couple of months before the election, Dan Rather published a fake story based on fraudulent documents in the hopes that it would hurt Bush in the election. And wouldn't you know it, the media still lies about this story to this day. I'm going to conclude this video by pointing out again that this is nothing new. Ever since Trump was elected, the media has really been trying to paint any criticism of the media as somehow wrong or fascist or an attack on democracy. While on the other hand, it's perfectly acceptable for Democrats or Democrat media to attack and malign any kind of media that's critical of them. The fact is, if you look at polling around trust in the media, you'll find that it's been plummeting for the last 20 years, with pretty much only Democrats still falling for their game. Or they're just going along with it because they see it as a means to an end. That's all for this episode. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. It really helps this channel. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so in one of the platforms that are listed in the description or pinned comment. As always, thanks for watching. Keep coming back.